Khalid, Tashkandi, greetings.
Here. First of all, thank you very much for inviting us today and giving us this chance to talk about this session and the shocking strategies that have been implemented in this world. Actually, what we have seen in Syria is one of the filthiest conflict that happened in the entire history. So many innocent people had been killed in this war due to not a regional conflict. It's actually an international conflict. I tell you why. Because the conclusion of this conflict ended up in a weird situation. The first time in the history I've seen United States and their coalition, and I've seen Russia on the ground physically, actually for two different views and concepts. Russians seem to be standing up with the Syrian regime, specifically to support Bashar al-Assad, while Americans, with their own strategy, they reached up to the conclusion of supporting the moderate rebels and the Free Syrian Army against Bashar al-Assad. I don't understand. They both said above the table they're going to fight ISIS. That's weird. This war, as Mr. Kenneth said, the civil war sucked everybody in, and we all wrong. I think the superpower here had reached us to this conclusion. They manipulated the regional parties to involve in a plan that was discussed previously. I have seen a map on New York Times. They want to break
I'm going to ask you to be as brief as our commentators.
Okay,
so, yeah,
briefly,
yeah.
I'm going to ask a question here, but on New York Times, we've seen the map.
So far, the lead-up is really great. I just want you to bring it to a nut.
Thank you very much. I want to reach to my questions, but first I want to say something about the Middle East, the new shaped map that's going to break down the region to few small countries based on religious views, based on race discrimination. And what I would like to ask here, what made ISIS more difficult than Saddam's Hussein regime? That's the first question. The second question, we might have sort of a conflict, physical conflict, and end up in a more bigger war between the superpower.
Fascinating, important questions. So let me invite, just very briefly, you see the clock with me. First question is, let's just put ISIS on the table. What makes ISIS so compelling? Maybe that fits in the identity arena, Zaid. And to those of you who want to comment, what are the risks, Ken, of an escalation into something more serious, which may explain why America didn't take action in Syria before? But let me start with Zaid.
I'll pass to Kenneth and...
Okay. Thoughts on identity in ISIS? Mohammed?
No.
No?
Okay. So I'll answer it this way. I think it's a great question. What makes it different is Saddam Hussein, state actor, does something utterly stupid, invades Kuwait at the moment when the United States has a massive army with nothing to do. Made it easy to deal with them. Daesh is, to a very great extent, a product of the civil wars.
Right.
And this is the real problem, is you're not going to get rid of Daesh without dealing with the civil wars. You put it really nicely. The American strategy, I would argue, is nonsensical, because we're trying to deal with Daesh as if it is freestanding, independent, a problem in its own right, rather than a symptom of the deeper problems of the civil war. That's why it's so hard. Unless we're willing to deal with the civil wars, we're not going to get rid of Daesh.
I think it's right, and it's a great question, because those people who blamed either the outside forces for either being involved or uninvolved, one of the problems in Syria is it's always been a civil war with proxy war stacked on top of it, with huge potential.